So welcome everybody. The unicorn, the next unicorn might save lives. That's not just a catchy phrase. It's the reality, the harsh reality in a world where we live in, it feels like constant crisis. So think of climate shocks, think of cyber attacks, think of war. So in resilience, what we think is not just coping with the current situation from one crisis to another. It's just creating opportunities and creating solutions for the upcoming generations. And I'm really honored, as I already said, that I'm here with three very visionary voices next to me. It's Stefan, CEO from Messe München, Daniel, CEO and founder of ESA Aerospace, and Benedikt, CEO and Vice Chairman of Munich Security Conference. And I would like to start with you, Benedikt. You have, I guess, far more insights into the current situation on a geopolitical aspect than we ordinary people. So could you explain us what's really going on? What's going on in the US, what's going on in Europe and in China? So what's the world we live in now?
See, I've become a professional party pooper by now. I travel around the world, I go to meetings like these, I meet lots of great founders and funders, and I try to spoil their fun. Because the world that we live in is an increasingly fragile one, is an increasingly dangerous one, and is one that is increasingly detached from your happy world in many places. The Munich Security Conference tries to make sure that people from all walks of life, including in this hall, understand that the defense of Europe is much more than just tanks and steel, and yes, a lot more than drones. I'm hoping that Florian isn't in the audience, but no. There is a lot more than drones to defense, and part of it is our resilience. Resilience has become such a buzzword. Everyone uses it, but very few people actually think through the consequences. If we want to make it through the next decade, if we want to reduce our dependencies on authoritarian actors across the world, if we want to heal our vulnerabilities, and if we want to have any chance whatsoever to defend our values globally, we need to get our act together. We need to address our dependencies on US technology. We need to address our dependency on Chinese markets and raw materials, our dependency, and it's still a dependency, on Russian resources. And there are many, many ways to do that. We all talk about, again, buzzwords like circularity, recycling, that's sort of our domestic response. The much more realistic response is to create new alliances across the world and ensure that we diversify our risks. Because every vulnerability and every dependency that can be weaponized will be weaponized. What you see in the news every day is a very tiny tip of an enormous iceberg. And when you believe that our way of life, that your way of life is secure, then think again.
Oh, wow.
That's the party pooper part.
Yay. Do you feel
yes, and obviously no one ever claps.
Well, probably one more question. So from my perspective, what does it mean when we move from a rule-based order to a, I would say, power-based order? What does it mean for Europe? Could you elaborate on this aspect a little bit more?
Is this Chatham House?
Yes, of course. Not.
Excellent. See, the problem with a power-based order is that if you have no power, it's not a fun place to be. I think Sigmar Gabriel once said this would be like being a vegetarian in a world of carnivores. We in Europe aren't in a good position as it comes to negotiations with the US. Just look at the tariff trade that we got out. We are in a horrible position vis-à-vis China. We have no leverage. We have no leverage politically. We have no leverage militarily. And yes, despite being such an economic powerhouse, we have no leverage economically because no one believes that we will take the tough choices that would be necessary to change incentives across the world. We will not change our approach towards China. We will continue to make money there. We'll continue to continuously enter into new dependencies. And we will not do any of the things that I keep saying on stages like these. And because people know that, there is no leverage in the European system.
Well, okay. This sounds like a really new normal, a very fragile environment we live in now in Europe. And Stefan, I would like to come now to the role of platforms in this really moving environment. So, your business, trade fairs and conference. So, how can these trade fairs, from your perspective, and conferences, as they are marketplaces for ideas, how can they support this aspect of resilience? How can they help to scale resilience technology, resilience startups?
Well, Benedict said it. It's there's a buzzword, and it's very hard to define that. What does resilience?
What is it?
Yeah. What is it? And it's always a complex system. Like you said, there's the question of, are we resilient towards technology from China? Are we resilient towards the US? We as organizers or conference makers, exhibition makers, we can contribute by defining things. And for example, let's circle back to the terminology topic. In a technical context, resilience is the ability of systems to maintain its essential functions in the event of failure or disruption, as towards a breakdown, more or less. Now, given what Benedict has said, we have to pick out this part of it, and we can make something out of it. It's necessary that we level up municipalities, cities, to be resilient to our critical infrastructure, companies, for example, ports, seaports, even dual-use companies like mobile companies or car companies or even chemical companies. So all of them need to get resilient. Now, the question is, what can we do as an organizer if we provide platforms like that? One is, we can create a place for solutions. So we become more or less the operational part of the Munich Security Conference. You discuss the geopolitical impacts, the negotiations, the powerhouses, the things. But we, on the other hand, with products and services and solutions, we are on a very operational part and more or less trying to showcase the outcome of the things and needs that come from a political perspective. And if we do a good job there, then we can really create shows like, for example, Bits25 that have a business value. Maybe one thing further, by creating a show, we help to frame the topic of resilience technology because we are curating it. We are starting to curate the segments that are being shown, especially if there are new startups coming up who have new products. We have to curate these segments. And also we curate the visitor side, meaning who are the buyers? Is it the government? Is it a governmental body? Who exactly is coming to the show? And this is something that we can do, curate the ecosystem and curate the content.
And how important is it to also you're in the public, so the public perspective on resilience? Resilience is connected with crisis, as we heard, and how to approach this topic, because it's very important to get the acceptance for those technologies, even if the crisis is not here or you don't feel it so far.
Well, it's giving a topic like that visibility is very important. But usually we're talking about a B2B event.
Yeah.
You know, there are, for example, new startups or established companies who have a product that at the end, a governmental body or a city. Let's take the example of wastewater treatment plants who are critical infrastructure, and you have certain new innovative technology for that, for example. Now you're in a B2B environment, but the topic of resilience needs to be broader into our whole society. So the question is, what can we, as organizers of those shows like Bits25 can do to advocate, to educate the public? And this job can be done via media interaction, or I'm not saying we are placing resilience tech now in the city, but look at IAA mobility. We brought the mobility topic into the city.
Interesting view on it.
Yeah. So we have to think about formats and things, how we can also get a B2B topic, which is not very known currently, into a broader public.
So Daniel would mean to bring Spectrum to Marienplatz. So
yeah.
We should do that.
Yeah,
Daniel, well, you just launched successfully Spectrum and brought to bring the satellites in space. Can you, from your founder's perspective, so we have the geopolitical perspective, we have the B2B platform perspective, you as a founder, as a product owner and a front runner in European space tech, what does it mean to build space tech or resilience tech currently in Europe? How does it feel?
First of all, I think people need to get a view on realities, where we actually even have our dependencies. Many people don't even know about the dependencies. And more often than not, it's actually in the almost invisible parts, like the supply chain. But if you take a rocket with its 100,000 components, if you're just missing one single component, that rocket does not fly. That means that a satellite does not get put into space. That means that, for example, a military operator cannot communicate with that satellite, which literally may mean lives are at stake. And so you basically have to think about the entire value chain all the time. Now, when talking about space, again, I think space as a tech platform is very much like the internet. It's going to disrupt almost every other industry. I've not yet figured out an industry that it hasn't really been able to disrupt or started to disrupt. And so I think we're seeing all of those industries generally in Europe as well. We now need to harness them. And when I think about resilience, I also think about the users who actually want to use and rely on a system. Mm-hmm. You're resilient when actually your users, your customers can rely on you. And so what's interesting is actually from the fair's perspective, in the US, on almost every fair, we see military people. We see catastrophe prevention people, because they're actually interested in that, I would say, technological advantage, and also to a large extent, actually, technological superiority. If you're technologically superior than your adversary, you can actually play a power card. But if you have no technologies, it's not called brick and pretzels. It's called bits and pretzels, because we like to overthink. And we have to figure out what are those technologies that actually make us resilient on one side, across the entire value chain, but also make us technologically superior to others.
Well, your industry space is a perfect example for dual-use technologies. So how is it currently boosting your company that we need both use cases?
Maybe I'll just give a small example. If you have an Earth observation satellite with a hyperspectral camera, so that it cannot just see visible light, but across the entire light spectrum, you can, with that, measure the output of chlorophyll. So you can actually measure the growth of plants. Mm-hmm. And that satellite can deliver data to a farmer to actually tell the farmer when to harvest the crop and when to put how much water and how much fertilizer on which part of the field at what perfect time. That same satellite on an infrared level can also detect a missile launch, because it's basically measuring a heat signature. And usually actually where other countries are placing their silos from which they launch their intercontinental ballistic missiles. You can actually measure with that same satellite the heat signature and determine, even on the first roughly 5 to 10 seconds, the entire trajectory of where that missile is heading. And so again, there's a strong dual use push. And what we're seeing right now is Germany even started now to actually invest in it from a defense perspective, but it's going to add a lot of value on entirely different sectors.
Absolutely.
So, the $40 billion of investment that the German defense minister just announced last week will ultimately lead actually to a lot of productivity, I hope, in the agricultural sector. They're not directly connected, but the systems that are being built with it will add a lot of value. We can maybe have our own Starlink.
We should
German
have.
government actually
shouldn't we have, Benedict?
has ambitions to build it.
Yes,
you know?
please.
So, and then we can tell our Ukrainian friends that whenever their systems from whoever are being turned off, we actually have something that we can provide. But again, it's about technological superiority. We have something to provide.
So
if you don't have anything,
to ask Elon
can
if
provide
he
anything.
switches on or not. It should be better that we decide what to do.
Exactly.
Just a quick round. So I will start with you, Benedict. Which resilience startup you wish exists already today? What is needed most in Europe? When we cover not only defense, Benedict. Huh?
You know, don't worry. I'm not going to do bullets and pretzels here.
Laser and pretzels.
I think what we would need is a mindset shift startup. Because what we all do is we live in two worlds at once. We live in a world where we all know that this world isn't in a good shape, and in another world at the same time, and I count myself into that, where I change not an inch of my behavior. I just continue to live just exactly as I did. And
do we neglect it?
I think we do at our peril. And it would be so good. It would be so good if we didn't just talk about resilience, but actively doubled down on things.
Okay.
And that means tackling some uncomfortable truths. When we talk about dual-use technology, we will have to look at our universities from a security perspective. It's deeply uncomfortable. No one likes that. But there is a lot of knowledge generated that our opponents, competitors, and enemies use against us. So this type of research security, we will only get if there is a mindset shift. So if there were a mindset shift startup, I would invest in it.
Okay. Stefan, what's your mindset shift startup?
Maybe drawing on that, but way more practical. We as Messe
even
Munich,
more practical than my mindset shift.
So hands-on yours.
Even more hands-on. We as Messe Munich, for example, we are not a critical infrastructure right now, but in terms of crisis, and if they come up, something like a pandemic, we become a critical infrastructure because we have a lot of space, we have the halls and everything. So we run scenarios for different types of crisis here at Messe Munich. And this can be war scenarios, this can be pandemic scenarios, this can be natural disaster scenarios. And what we do is, and cybersecurity issues, everything. And what we learned so far as a company, we run these scenarios, but we really can't track all the data and all the processes, what we did so far, and then really improve them. It takes a lot of time to bring all of these separate functions together. So what I would love to see is a startup which creates a black box for companies when they run their security or resilience exercises, whatever they do, have a black box so that we can go there afterwards, look exactly what happened in terms of data, KPIs, processes, what exactly happened, and then improve. I think for me, personally, this is something that's missing in our company more.
BlackRock's resilience startup. Daniel, you're busy with ESA Aerospace. What would be the next startup, or what would you need today for Europe?
You can also co-invest in mine.
It actually,
no shared
honestly,
deal.
I would do that because I think we do need a shift of mindset in Europe and literally face reality straight on. But generally speaking, we live in a physical world. And I think one of the elements that I'm missing is actually building an industrial capacity to really be able to build stuff. And there's a lot of technological progress going on, obviously, in AI and digital, in the digital world entirely. But ultimately, it will still come down to, can you actually build things? Can you build enough cars? Can you build, for what it's worth, bullets? And right now, we can't. And when you think about the fact that even an economic powerhouse like Germany you can actually probably, from a military perspective, run over quite quickly, unfortunately. That does not let me sleep better at night. And so we need to be prepared. And those are the things that, as soon as you need it, you wish you had invested in it 5 to 10 years ago. And who knows? Maybe we should invest in it now. If we don't need it in 5 to 10 years, everything is great. But if we need it, we better invest now to make sure that we don't, face the other side of that equation.
All right. Thanks for this hands-on startup product. Just one more. If we look further, so we are lagging behind when it comes to resilience. What I got. We need the platforms. What is the one lever we need to not only catch up, or is a potential that we even, as a Europe today, as we see it today, be the leader in the world when it comes to this? Or is it far away, far off, Benedikt?
See, I keep telling the story when I was on a conspiracy summit in Napa Valley, California, with all the agency heads of the 3-letter agencies in the US. And the conference was almost as cool as this one. And the way it worked is somebody got on stage and just had 3 minutes to explain how he had made the US safer in the past 12 months. 56 agencies got on stage, one after the other, and said, how did we make the United States safer? In Germany, you couldn't even find the agency heads unless actually get them on a stage. And so I just think here too, we need a government, and I think the minister is coming in a minute. Yeah. We need a government that takes resilience seriously and that asks its constituent parts to actually, year upon year, like you guys have to do to your investors all the time, prove that they are worth it. Okay. That would change a lot.
Daniel, what would you change for ESA Aerospace? What's the one thing that would help you to build more the resilience tech?
We're dependent also, obviously, on certain sets of infrastructure. I'll just give you a very simple example. We're building a new headquarters with new production facilities 5 minutes from here. And it took us 3 years with a team of 5 people in the government to find a place to build it in a reasonable time frame. That is just a freaking building. There's no rocket built in there yet. It's just a building. And that's our problem, I think. Yeah. And so I think our pain, honestly, is not big enough to say, we know what you're doing is important, just build that goddamn building. But no, we need to make sure we fill all of the forms, and more forms, and more forms. And in the meantime, some dictators across the world take advantage of it.
Without forms, but with rockets. Yeah. Last word, Stefan.
Yeah. Well, for me, it would help. We run some of the world-leading shows on laser and electronica and stuff like that. And now we are creating the resilience tech show. Now, for me, it would really help to get in contact with the respective people from the European industries who can help curate something like that. Okay. Because we can curate it on the electronica and technological level, on the laser level, but we can also create the resilience tech for what I mentioned earlier. But we need the people working with us to curate it, to segment it, and to make it more visible.
Thanks, gentlemen. Very interesting insight. To sum it up, so resilience tech is not only a societal need for us, it's a huge opportunity, and we have to act now as a Europe. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.